thanks for joining this Oneserve Talk podcast. My name's Stuart and I'm joined today by Oneserve Chief Executive Chris Proctor. In our last podcast, Chris and I discussed his background, how he ended up at Oneserve, and what motivates him as a business leader. Today, we're going to chat Oneserve and its work in the social housing sector. Welcome back, Chris.
Thanks for the introduction, Stuart, and hello.
Okay, let's jump in. So for our listeners, could you just explain what Oneserve is and who it actually supports?
Of course. So Oneserve is a cloud-based field service management system that operates in the social housing sector. And what that basically means is that our customers use our system to get someone somewhere to do something, be that fix a boiler, install a new kitchen, or make sure that a particular property is safe and free from dangers, all in a way that focuses on the end customers and makes sure that we give them the great service that generates real efficiency and to reduce wastage in a highly compliant way.
I think that was a really great summary, but I'd just like to dig a little deeper and talk about how Oneserve can make a difference for, in particular, social housing operatives and how they actually work out in the field.
Yeah, of course. So from the moment a request to do something is received, Oneserve takes care of the whole process. So straight away, you've got complete visibility of everything that needs to happen. We ensure that the right person goes to the right place at the right time. But what's more is we make sure they've got the right skills. We've got to ensure they've got the right parts, that they've got to the right level of information about the homes they're going to. They can talk to the residents, let them know they're en route, which means they get much better satisfaction. And I think operatives, nobody wants to go to work to deliver a bad service. Everyone in the housing sector wants the best for the residents, and we help those operatives achieve that. And most importantly, as we're the only platform that's dedicated to the housing sector, we spend and have spent a lot of time understanding it intimately. So we're always working with providers. We're always working with the people on the ground to make sure that we're always evolving that service every day. So we're responding to changes, be that looking at how we make sure people find the most appropriate parking space or petrol station. It's about really understanding the challenges those operatives face and making sure that they've got the functionality they need.
So I'm guessing each social housing provider will have slightly different challenges. Some may be rural, some may be urban providers. What you actually provide, it can be adapted because you briefly touched on understanding the people that you work with. So how can the system be adapted to those different needs?
The system itself is vast, it's highly configurable, and it's about understanding the individual requirements for those providers. It's about understanding the nuances of the housing provider and making sure that we're gearing our system up to tailor that. So you're right, in some geographies, you might have high density populations and they have their operatives who are multi-skilled, who will operate in one way. You might have someone else who says, do you know what? You're going out into a rural area, you're going to be there for a couple of days. So actually, let's take this kind of approach. And it's about making sure that within the context of social housing, we can make sure that we're always getting the best for those residents and those users.
Okay. Can I put you on the spot now?
Of course.
Why is Oneserve different to, say, other providers in the marketplace? You talked about you exclusively deal with the social housing sector. So I'm guessing to our listeners out there, can you just sum up why you are different?
Yeah, of course. So obviously there's elements within our products in terms of the functionality that we offer that's slightly different to other people. We've got some innovation stuff that I'm sure we'll talk about in subsequent episodes. But we're one of the only providers who have always been a SaaS product. And why I mention that is that we've not had any of those challenges around moving the system or the business from on-premise solutions to the cloud, which actually provides you with an awful lot of freedom and allows you to think in very different ways. But we also really focus on what it means to be a SaaS business. SaaS is about software as a service. And it's that element of service that's really important to us. And for us, the service being part of the product, and it's something that completely sets us aside. And as I said, we are the only provider that has been born from and focuses purely on the housing sector, which allows us a much better understanding of what the challenges are now, what the challenges are going to be in 3 months and 6 months and 12 months. And it allows us to really focus that functionality. You know, there's lots of commonalities and similarities between the housing sector and the utility sector and domiciliary care, for example. But actually, when you get under the skin of it, there's also a lot of really highly nuanced requirements and circumstances and drivers and dynamics within those sectors that really you have to get under the skin of in order to be able to support people properly.
I'm guessing things like the social housing sector, there's a lot of compliance that has to be built into any system. So say gas servicing has to be done every year. And I'm assuming the system just lays it all out there for the provider and they can see exactly what needs to be done and what has been done.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the three things that we deliver people are massive improvements in efficiency, massive improvements in customer experience. And of course, it goes without saying, compliance is a huge priority for all housing associations, as it rightly should be.
So is it fair to say it's changing the way people work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about the levels of efficiency involved, then it's making a massive difference. It's making people think about their compliancy requirements. It's making them think in different ways about the service they're delivering, communicating with the residents as they go into these homes. And it's also about getting them to think and work in a much, much more efficient way.
We could probably spend hours discussing this, couldn't we, just in terms of the impact of this sort of technology. And I think probably one of the issues that the social housing sector's faced for many years is that it's been accused of sort of falling behind other sectors, and certainly in the way it delivers a decent customer service. So what you've been saying here is that the product that you provide does move things on enormously, probably to the point in what people are seeing elsewhere, whether it's package being delivered by Amazon or perhaps work being done by a utility company.
I think the field service management service sector has a lot of change to go through, and that change is starting to come. And one of the things I'm happiest about is that we're seeing some of those real advances come from within the housing sector, but there's a lot more to come. You know, the bar for service management is still very low, and it's about getting up to speed with those, using the technologies that we're using, you know, to do things like letting you know when someone's going to be on their way. That's borrowed heavily from things like retail. A social housing resident shouldn't tell the difference between the service they receive from Amazon to the service they receive from their landlord. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the sector.
Thanks, Chris. And that wraps up our latest podcast. We'll be back discussing with Chris one of the big challenges facing the social housing sector: how to do more with a shrinking workforce at a time of rising costs. As always, keep an eye on our social media channels, and thanks for listening. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Stuart.